Let's get a quick take on the Denver International Airport celebrating the 20th anniversary of its opening this Saturday. It's still the newest and biggest commercial airport in the country as it expands a hotel and a light rail line coming next year. Patti Calhoun from Westward, does it feel like it's been 20 years?
No, it feels like just yesterday that the opening was delayed for the fourth time back in 1994. We had the incredible baggage problem on the automated baggage system that ate suitcases. We had the cost overruns, but against all odds, it seems to me DIA has worked out pretty well. Somehow it seems much closer than it did back in 1995 when we were first driving out there. And people seem to like it. Now, if they could just have the pot souvenirs, if the expansion can work as well, if they can keep the Mustang there and keep the good art there, we'll have a good airport for the next 20 years.
And they're celebrating with you get sent
this
a
beautiful
huge press
gift
kit.
packet.
We'll show this part of it. Just one of many items in there. The whole TSA approved.
Right. When it opened, you were able to carry more than 3 ounces of liquid.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's how times have changed with DIA and how we travel. David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. Is DIA the airport that was promised us 20 years ago?
We were promised an airport whose purpose was a large public works construction project, and we got that. And we got all the buy-in from the public works contractors and everybody else to the political system to make that happen. I'm skeptical about an airport whose artwork logo is Satan's stallion. We had an airport that was a great business advantage to Denver. We were the second closest airport to the city center. The only thing closer was Reagan Airport in DC. And when we think about all the corporate welfare that goes into convention centers and things like that, we had a really strong natural advantage of you can fly in and get to downtown or wherever easily and quickly. We traded that, and Stapleton needed to be expanded, but there was space to do that at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal to add additional runways. Instead of our close and convenient airport, we now have the second furthest airport from the city center, second only to Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. So it is a good airport to connect through with plenty of shopping, but it is a inconvenient airport for the people who live in this city and for travelers who are coming to Denver to do business in Denver.
Penfield Tate, attorney at Greenberg Traurig, also a longtime state lawmaker. 20 years we've seen DIA cover a whole host of highs and lows. David brings up a good point. I mean, I like to tease people that we share an airport with Kansas, which is nice. But DIA has also done pretty well. I mean, it's still promised to be a good cold weather airport or a bad weather airport. It's delivered on that message. What do you feel about these first 20 years of DIA?
Well, first, I think David's far too cynical. I think DIA...
No, wait a second. David Kopel cynical at this table?
DIA represents a promise made, a promise kept. We were promised a world-class airport, and that's what this region got. Clearly, DIA is a star among airports, both nationally and internationally. It has been a phenomenal boon for the Colorado economy. When you look where it's placed now, but for DIA, you wouldn't have the Stapleton neighborhood to begin with, and we couldn't expand onto the Arsenal because they weren't going to make land available for runways. But now you have the Stapleton Airport, all of that development, Northfield. It's done wonders for Green Valley Ranch and some of the other development around Tower Road. Aurora's benefited from DIA, the suburbs have benefited from DIA, and we've all benefited from a world-class airport, and that's what we have. And it's going to get even better with the hotel and with the light rail line running to it. Sure, it's physically more distant from the core of the city than Stapleton was, but then Stapleton also gave us the benefit of lawsuits from neighborhoods about the noise. And so there were a host of problems we had to work through. But I think what DIA really represents is through the Pena and Webb administrations, how government can work for communities and a region, and how people can participate in that process and get an end result that works in everybody's best interest.
Eli Stokols, political reporter with Fox 31, anchor on KWGN. We're honored to have you here. We heard the big news this week about you heading off to D.C., all the comparisons with D.C. airports. We have
Much
Eli
nicer
make this
flying
move.
into Reagan than Dulles, that's for sure.
Exactly. Give us your how you feel about DIA's big 20th anniversary.
I wasn't here 20 years ago. I've heard the nightmarish stories about the bags being eaten. But I think that, aside from it being in West Kansas, you have to talk a lot about what's happened in the 20 years since and give a lot of credit to folks like Tom Clark and the economic development folks who have really taken the airport and made sure that they've recruited business and new flights and new pathways to not just Europe now, but to Asia. I was on the second flight to Japan last year, I believe, and getting back from Tokyo in 9 hours is kind of incredible. And you can think about what that does for business. And now they're establishing routes to South America. So, as an economic driver of international trade and business, I think it's only going to expand and get larger. I think the disappointing thing after 20 years is that we're just now establishing light rail. And in terms of public transportation and making an airport accessible, if you're going to build it in West Kansas, you better come up with ways that people can get there. And I think in terms of making a city livable and multimodal and achieving the things that we talked about, I don't know why it's taken 20 years. I mean, we all know why. I guess it's the funding and the money. But it's disappointing that it's taken 20 years to finally get people who can take the train out to that airport.
I couldn't agree with you more. You go to other big cities, you get off the plane, you can spend a couple bucks, get to the city center. The fact that it was always a $50 or more taxi cab from DIA was embarrassing. It's nice, at least the problem's getting fixed now.